Coming up next on Eco Company,
the do's and don'ts of recycling. We visit a place that sees our garbage and figures out what to do with it, and we're going to follow where it goes.
So put on your hard hat. We're headed in here, where these plastic bottles get a second life. It's a peek inside the place where our recycled plastic bottles end up, and we'll see what they go through to be useful again.
Then we visit a recycled paper mill and look at the size of these rolls.
The rolls around us right here that we're looking at average about 2 tons each.
You'll be surprised at what your recycled paper becomes.
Plus, turning food into power. It's grease being used for more than you might think. How this guy is using restaurant grease to fuel cars. All that and more coming up
on Eco Company, starting right now. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm Zelina.
And I'm Adam. We're out here today enjoying the great outdoors.
And what we do with our trash has a lot to do with preserving places like this and natural resources.
Did you know that each one of us throws out about 5 pounds of trash each day?
That's a lot. Imagine if we recycled a large portion of that.
What happens when we do? We're gonna take a little field trip to find out. Do you know what happens to your curbside garbage? It's taken to a place like this before hitting the landfill.
When you look into the pit, you're going to see the garbage from around 2 million people. It's disgusting.
Not a pretty sight, but there's a way to cut down on our waste, and that's to recycle.
Could be recycled probably 75 to 80% easily.
Rebecca Jewell is a recycling manager for waste management in San Leandro, California.
My job is to help communicate to the people who bring material to our facility how their processes work, how their material is recovered, and what the recycling process is.
All right, so check this out. They process 400 tons of recycling every day. That's 50,000 pounds an hour. That's a lot of recycling. They do it here with a state-of-the-art machine that does the sorting for us.
Single stream means for communities who've decided to put all of the recycling into one bin. That would include bottles, cans, newspapers, all your containers, all your junk mail, and leave it to us to sort it.
First, hand sorters pick through everything, looking for no-nos, like these golf clubs.
Sometimes we even see things like pizzas and chickens.
Everything that passes go heads through the recycling maze.
And then it's sorted by size. Next it's sorted by weight. Next it goes under a magnet. Next it goes underneath an optical sorting equipment, which is using lasers and high-speed cameras and air jets to blow material off of the belt into the right direction. It's a pretty intense process.
So after all the magic happens up there, all the aluminum, paper, and cans are brought down here to be bundled up and sent off to be recycled.
Say yeah!
Most communities, if they recycle, can recycle number 1 plastic, number 2 plastic, and newspapers. Number 1 plastic would be like your water bottles and your soda bottles. Number 2 plastic would be like detergent bottles and some shampoo bottles. And the newspaper is exactly what arrives on your doorstep every morning.
And Jewel says recycling all those items is exactly what we should all be doing.
And we have way too many landfills and way too little stuff that has been made out of recycled material. And we hope that you're going to help us solve that.
What happens to all that plastic after it gets separated at the recycling center?
How does it actually get reused? Well, we wanted to find out.
So, we went to a place that turns all that plastic into a new form and gives it new life.
They're everywhere these days. Signs telling us to recycle. But just what happens when you toss your plastic bottle into the blue bin? We're paying a visit to this recycling center to find out. It's a noisy place, but we're not complaining. This is Peninsula Plastic Recycling Center in Turlock, California. Here, workers take our tossed out plastic bottles, break them down, and turn them into something that can be reused.
We'll bring in about 100 million pounds of bales from the recycling stream. And then we'll convert out about 75 million of that back into the manufacturers that'll use PET again.
Tom Sponder runs this place, and he's just the guy to answer our next question. What exactly is PET?
PET is the polymer that's most commonly used in soda bottles, water bottles, hinged trays. When you go and buy fruits and vegetables in the stores that are in hinged trays, that's PET. So most likely, it's going to be a material that's clear.
The process all starts with bottles brought in from recycling centers.
And then we take those bottles, those bales, and convert them into usable product that gets resold to people that make more bottles and more PET products.
The first step is to sort through it all, and that's no small task.
What we're doing here is we're beginning to loosen up the bottles in the bales. Forklift driver will lift up that bale, drop it down, and begin the process of separation.
Once sorting is done, it gets down to the nitty-gritty.
Those loose bottles then are conveyed up through an incline conveyor past a magnet that'll pull out as much of the ferrous metal or the magnetic metal as possible.
The cans that get pulled out are sent to companies that recycle aluminum.
We then run through a machine that does a pre-wash.
It's important to get the plastic bottles squeaky clean. They can't have residue like dirt or sugars from juice or soda.
We also heat up the bottles at that point, so the bottles start to shrink within this pre-wash system using steam, and labels start to come off and the caps start to come off. What you see behind me is a machine that takes off the labels on the bottles. At this point in our line, 99% of the labels are removed.
Then the bottles are inspected by both man and machine. Workers keep a watchful eye over everything because they only want the clear stuff at the end of this line.
We can sell green separately. The green being used for green soda bottles.
Once it's all sorted, the bottles get ground up and sent for a final wash. Then you get these. Way too many flakes to count. At the end of the line, all those flakes come out here and get bagged for the next leg of their journey to a new life. And they produce a lot of them. About 75% of what they send out to manufacturers are these bags of flakes. But there is another step.
In this form, today we're running green. This flake cannot be used for direct food contact.
To do that, the flakes need to go into a pelletizer, which converts the flakes into pellets. Then, the pellets go through another process.
We'll run it through a machine called a solid stator and changes the molecular structure of the recycled material pellet into a form that can be used for FDA applications such as water bottles and soda bottles.
These bags of plastic flakes and pellets are the building blocks for new recycled plastic products, and more than just soda bottles. These days, recycled PET also goes into fibers for carpet and even clothing. This sounds great, right? There is, however, one big problem.
The problem in the United States, and especially here in California, is recycling rates are so low. Our issue is that we struggle getting feedstock. There isn't enough of it out there. We can recycle more if we had more people recycling.
Instead, a lot of our plastic waste ends up here, polluting the environment in a landfill. Or here in the ocean, where it's broken down by the sun, putting marine life at risk because creatures of the sea mistake plastic pellets for food. The solution? Simple.
Recycle, recycle, recycle.
The EPA estimates it takes 2/3 less energy to manufacture products made out of recyclable plastic. Something to consider the next time you see a blue bin. So toss your plastic bottle inside, where it'll be whisked off to make something brand new.
Up next, bales and bales of recycled paper. What happens to it all?
That's the brown stuff we saw. And then underneath this clay white coating is that whiter fiber.
We'll go inside a paper mill to see how this becomes this.
Then, imagine charging your car while you eat. It's not the future, it's happening now at this restaurant, and there's more. They're also turning grease into fuel. That's still ahead on Eco Company.
If you thought that throwing paper in a recycling bin was tough, think again.
It's what happens next where the real work comes in.
We sent Josh down to see just what happens to all that paper at the recycled paper mill.
When you walk down the cereal aisle at your grocery store, have you ever considered that most of those boxes are made from paper that you recycle? We're here at this paper mill to find out how that happens. Paper, paper, and more paper. What is the weight of one of those large paperboard rolls?
The rolls around us right here that we're looking at average about 2 tons each. So about the size of a small Volkswagen.
It's everywhere you look at Graphic Packaging International in Santa Clara, California.
Okay, so we're almost there, huh? All right.
Dick Johnston is the mill's general manager, so he's in charge of making sure paper that comes in like this comes out looking like this.
What we do is we produce a clay-coated recycled box board that we see turned into tissue boxes and cereal boxes and soap boxes, macaroni boxes. A lot of the things you'd buy on a grocery shelf is what we make here as the raw paper board before it goes to the printer.
Here's the cool part. They're doing all this using 100% recycled paper. Cardboard boxes, newspaper, printer paper. They take it all here.
Craft fibers, which you see in corrugated boxes, are long and give us strength. News fibers out of newspapers happen to give us some filler and give us some bulk.
And yes, pizza boxes work too.
We have a process that can take that pizza box and recycle it and turn it back into good paper. The only thing we'd probably ask the consumer at home to do is that piece that's loaded with grease and oil, throw that one in the garbage.
Here's how it's all done. First, the bales of recycled paper get fed into the pulper. It's like a huge blender that mixes the paper with water. The pulper breaks down the paper into fibers and kicks out things like small pieces of plastic and metal. Now that other one looked kind of gray. This one's brown. What's the difference?
It's simple. It's the difference of what you put in it. Again, hot water and agitation, and we break the fibers down, but this has a lot of brown corrugated fiber and a little bit of newspaper, where that had newspaper and a lot of white fiber.
The pulp gets heated to about 160 degrees to burn off those greases and other contaminants. It then goes through more cleaning before heading off to the paper machine. Now this looks like mission control. What's going on in here?
Well, what's going on in here is this cabinet right here that you're looking at essentially controls all this pressing or squeezing that's occurring up here in the pressing section of the paper machine.
It starts here, where the pulp is poured onto the rollers and then pressed to squeeze out the water. That's repeated as many as 8 times to add layers of fiber. Finally, it gets a white top coat. Then, it's dried using steam and high heat, as much as 2100 degrees. Then, presto, you get the raw paperboard in these huge rolls. They are cut to the right width for specific products before heading off to the printer.
That's the brown stuff we saw. And then underneath this clay white coating is that whiter fiber. And if you take the edge of the sheet and you work it back and forth, you can start to split those plies. And we can start to peel it back. And if you peel it back, there's that whiter fiber. And that's what we put the coating over.
As you might guess, making paper takes a lot of water. But they do their best to conserve and even recycle.
So as we squeeze that water out, we use vacuum to pull it away, and then we start that recycling process because we recapture all that water.
They even produce some of their own energy.
Cogeneration, which means we take the energy that we use to make the steam, but first we put it through a jet engine, which turns a generator, so we make both power and steam out of the same energy.
It's a process that's all about saving energy, water, and reducing greenhouse gases. Something Johnston says we can all have a hand in, too.
Most of your paper products, we can probably handle in a recycling effort, and we probably ought to see it in the waste paper stream coming back to us than being put in a garbage container that goes to landfill.
Waste in landfills produces methane gas. Released into the atmosphere, methane is 20 times more harmful than carbon dioxide. So from the bin to the mill, and then to the grocery store shelf. It's an effort to reuse and help protect the environment too.
Recycled paper is really the way to go to spread the resource for the whole world.
Coming up next, recycling our cooking grease.
How one guy is turning his restaurant waste into fuel.
More Eco Company is straight ahead.
And now for more on Eco Company and how recycling produces real results.
This next guy is a restaurant owner who saw a lot of waste every day.
So he decided to do something about it. And today he's turning that waste into fuel for our cars. When you think of Connecticut, you think rolling hills of green, animals dotting the landscape, and white steeples towering over New England neighborhoods. But you probably don't think of this. Biodiesel, or what will soon become biodiesel.
We convert vegetable oils into biodiesel.
We're paying a visit to BioPure, a place that's on a mission to green up the planet one truckload of veggie oil at a time.
There was no alternative.
Chris Glennis is giving us a tour.
Biodiesel is a replacement for traditional fossil fuels. Here in New England, we also use biodiesel a lot in home heating oil.
Biodiesel is a cleaner burning fuel because it's made from renewable resources, not petroleum. That makes it biodegradable and non-toxic.
It doesn't affect the environment from a standpoint of pollution and the harmful products that are coming out of it.
It's no accident that Glennis came upon the idea to make liquid gold.
Our family's in the restaurant business, so we're producing the used frying oils. After we use them for making the French fries and all the other things, you know, it basically was thrown away at that point. We were looking at that, boy, we should be able to do something with this.
Do something is an understatement. BioPure now recycles used frying oil from the restaurant, where, by the way, there's also an electric vehicle charging station, along with more than 2,000 others in Connecticut. Okay, so this is what we start with.
Yeah, this is actually the used frying oil from the restaurants. This has been filtered. It's a darker color than a regular vegetable oil because, of course, it's used. So we take this product and we make it into biodiesel.
And that is just like gold for you guys.
This is gold,
Put
yeah.
that to use.
Yep.
Here's where the process starts. So where are we now?
Right now, where we are at the first stop, where the oil that has been picked up from the restaurants comes to. And from here, it's going to be filtered and made ready to be brought up to the biodiesel facility to be made into biodiesel. Biodiesel is basically a process of taking vegetable oils, create a reaction with alcohol and a catalyst, and when that reaction occurs, the biodiesel floats to the top and the glycerin comes to the bottom.
So what are these tanks used for?
These are our actual reaction tanks. In other words, the oil is pumped into these tanks. The catalyst and the alcohol is added to these tanks. They're agitated. What there's in there is like a big paddle, basically. And what it is slowly mixed. It's like oil and vinegar, pretty much.
Okay, so what are the byproducts of making biodiesel?
One of the byproducts is glycerin and glycerol. And glycerol can be made into a multitude of different things.
It's here where we also meet 17-year-old Dale Erickson.
I'm actually learning the whole process of producing biodiesel.
Today, he's in the lab working on an important step of the process.
I am testing with an indicator on how clean the oil that we're starting out with actually is. From there, we know how much chemical to actually add to it. It helps better our knowledge of what kind of mixture we need to actually make the diesel better.
We'll show them the processes and how we make the product, and they help us.
I never actually thought I'd be able to do this in high school. This is an opportunity that only certain few get, and they might not even be able to get it in high school. And here I am, 17 years old, a senior in high school, and I'm working, producing biodiesel.
They don't just make biodiesel.
The other piece of the puzzle is also create and produce electricity from our biodiesel, which is 100% renewable, Class 1 renewable energy, which is pretty cool.
It's used to juice up this power station right next door.
Which is in turn sold right into the grid.
When you produce electricity, you also get something else out of the deal, and that's heat.
So we also capture that heat from our generator and is reused here in the plant.
Talk about going full circle. It's another reason Glennis says recycling veggie oil is the way to go.
It's also from utilizing waste, trying to get more values out of the things that we're creating here and not creating a huge garbage dump and making a cleaner environment for the future.
Thanks to efforts like this, it's a future that's looking greener, not just for Connecticut, but for the rest of the world too.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Eco Company. Thanks for tuning in.
We hope you learned as much as we did about how recycling goes a long way towards saving our natural resources and preserving places like this.
That's right. We can all be a part of the solution. We'll see you back here next time
On Eco Company.